Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen stories. In this video, a horrific Karen attacked a grandma sitting in a wheelchair, unaware that this grandma is a veteran who knows how to defend herself. Let's dive right into the video to find out what happened. The title story starts like this. So, my grandma is a decorated military veteran who was in Vietnam. She was a nurse on the lines and she saw plenty of combat. The area she was serving on 2 occasions ended up under fire, and she was covering injured soldiers to stop them from getting more hurt and herself avoiding gunfire. So while some might think it doesn't count because she was not a soldier, I recommend reading up on some of the nurses back in the days of the Vietnam War and even the Korean War. She was also a no-nonsense woman that seems to just emit something off of her that makes people know not to mess with her. I see total strangers stand up straighter around her, while at the same time with her being very well liked. I visit her once a week to bring her groceries and just chat. When we are outside, a neighbor will always end up passing by and wanting to speak with her. The only bad person in the neighborhood is a woman that I've dubbed as Karen. I've asked my grandma about her before, and she tells me that Karen is very entitled and unpleasant to be around. She gives dirty looks and thinks that the world wants her commentary and to know what she thinks about everything, despite the fact that Karen is never asked. Usually butting into other people's conversations and giving her 2 cents that again nobody wants. It was spring and my grandma hates being stuck inside on nice days, so we took a walk a few blocks away to a small park. Well, I walked and she sat in her wheelchair. Despite the fact that she cannot stand easily anymore, she still brings her cane with her. It is easier at restaurants for her to use it to stand up and get into a seat and then back in the chair after. She was in her chair and I was on a bench next to her and just enjoying life when Karen showed up as well. I could see my grandma fight the urge to roll her eyes at Karen's existence. Instead of going anywhere else, she decided to come up to the bench that I was on. They are not huge benches, but it could fit both of us without a problem. Instead of sitting, she just creepily loomed over us. I asked her if I could help her and she started demanding that we move. I'm a pretty shy person and people pleased, so if I was alone, I might have just done it. My grandma put a hand on my leg to tell me that I was not going anywhere. She told Karen that there was plenty of places to sit and she could go there. Karen lost it. She started screaming that this is where she always sits and that we have no care or respect for other people, telling me ironically that I should have respect for my elders and do what I was told. Not a chance that I go against what grandma was telling me to do though. She started to talk about how old people should not even be outside and I was getting ready to yell at her myself. I told her that she should be the one to show some respect and my grandma added in that Karen needed to go and get some classes. I would have expected Karen to maybe come after me, but not full on slapping my grandma across the face. I was standing instantly and ready to fight. I asked her what kind of person she was thinking that would go around attacking old women in wheelchairs. Karen just got further aggressive, trying to shove me and get by me and most likely for another shot at my grandma. What she did not know was that I was not standing there to protect my grandma because I knew what she would do the moment I moved. I finally gave up and stepped aside to watch it all unfold. I had barely moved when grandma had raised her cane and started to use it as a weapon against Karen. It was kind of funny to watch because no matter where Karen tried to dodge, she would just end up getting hit. It was as if my grandma was wielding a sword instead of a cane. I tried to tell Karen that messing with a veteran was a bad idea, but I don't think she heard me over trying to defend herself. Now, why she didn't just run away, I will never know. Grandma cannot exactly chase her down. But she finally gave Karen a heavy knock to the head and she went down on the grass. When I asked my grandma if she had to go that far, she told me that Karen had it coming for years and it would be the best way to maybe have a lesson get through to her head. Police were called by somebody and they came to the very odd-looking scene. Karen was conscious and still laying on the ground, screaming to the police to arrest the old lady and that she was a dangerous criminal. I don't actually blame the officers for looking confused. They questioned all of us and agreed that the story of Karen slapping her and grandma just defending herself seemed to be the only reasonable one. Especially with Karen's experience of events being that grandma was faking being old and got out of the chair, had a weapon and beat the crap out of her. Maybe the truth was just too embarrassing to admit. I could believe her not wanting to experience being knocked unconscious by a little old lady in a chair. Even though we were already in the clear, other people were coming forward to tell the police that Karen attacked and that she was harassing her for a seat. We were attracting quite a crowd, especially due to Karen not knowing how to speak in a manner that was not screaming. The unbiased onlookers telling the police about Karen too was enough for them to place her under arrest for assault. Now anybody would think that in this situation to just apologize to a judge or something and then beg for leniency, well, I could see a person with no priors maybe getting off with some probation or something, especially since Karen did not use a weapon and was not particularly dangerous looking. That is to say, anybody rational would do that. And if we learned anything from this Karen, it was that she wasn't rational. She wanted to press charges against Grandma, but she had nothing to stick, so that did not happen. Instead, she was trying to make a judge believe that my grandma had started all of it and everybody else was lying. I think Karen and possibly some readers might be confused why my grandma was not in trouble for knocking her unconscious, because laws are different anywhere. Well, where we live, what my grandma did qualified as reasonable self-defense. It might have not been if she had a real weapon, but they did not consider the cane as a real weapon. A judge found that Karen had no real defense to get rid of the charges against her for assault, and assault on an elderly person really would not look good in a trial court. I think her lawyer finally convinced her of that, and they opted to make a deal that was not really a deal. It was her going to prison for a year for assault, and it sounds like she will be gone for a year, but with parole and everything else, there's a chance that Karen comes back in only a few months. I convinced my grandma to get a restraining order since I was worried, and Grandma did not have to worry in the world about Karen though. She saw the entire event of being slapped more of an inconvenience than anything else. The story of what she did spread around quickly though, so if Karen did have any friends in the neighborhood before this, I can promise that she won't have any when she gets out. She's gonna end up from just being disliked and found annoying by people to downright hated. Maybe Karen will learn that old does not mean defenselessness and that a veteran can still be tough even if they cannot walk anymore. And the next one is an amazing malicious compliance story that is titled "Want Your Contract Upheld?" Okay, and by the way, if you enjoy the malicious compliance stories, then please don't forget to like the video, because that helps me tremendously. Thank you so much for the support. So about 2 years ago, I had a customer complain that we had raised the price of his phone contract. I work for one of the main UK mobile phone companies here as a customer service rep. I've had my fair share of terrible customers and ridiculous requests. But this was the straw that broke my back. So every year we have a price increase in March. It's the rate of inflation as published in November, 3.9%. This is in all contracts. Has been for as long as I've worked there. Every year we send a letter out in February to let people know, and every year we get calls asking, "What the F is this?" Most of the time I deal with these fairly well. I explain that they agreed to it in their contract and occasionally read the exact part of said contract. What makes it more delicious is if they've bought it in store and they have a physical copy. So I ask, "Do you see where you signed your name in the box that says, 'I have read and understand the terms and conditions of the contract'?" Well, just above there, the box above that says, "I understand that as of March, the price will increase by the rate of CPI plus 3.9%. And that normally ends those arguments. Well, one day, I'd spent all day dealing with these calls and I get a guy calling in. Let's call him Kevin. He complains about the price increase, saying how he never agreed to it in his contract and that his contract says it's, let's say, 30 British pounds. And that is what he agreed to, no more, no less. He would never agree to something where the price was gonna change. After the normal back and forth of explaining it all, how companies do it, not just us, petrol, food, shops, books, etc., everything, he was having none of it. Around about the same time most people accept and give up, he was still going strong, going in loops, repeating the same arguments that I've shot down already. At one point he says he never read it, so it shouldn't apply. I asked him, "Sir, if you don't read the 30 miles per hour speed limit sign and do 70 miles per hour there, you can still get stopped by the police. Just because you didn't read it doesn't mean it's not correct. Besides, you signed the box that you had read it, so I'm afraid you were aware of it." Now, that was perhaps me allowing my emotions to get in the way, but he did not like that at all. He said if he does not get the contract reverted to what he agreed to, he would cancel his direct debit and see us in court. Well, cue my malicious compliance. I noticed earlier during the conversation that his contract was actually £60 and that his first 3 months were half the price. The agent who added the discount added an undated 50% discount instead of the 3 MHP discount that auto removes. Well, given the call was an hour long and I was overdue my break, I finally said, "Okay sir, on this occasion, I'm willing to waive the price increase for you and revert your plan to its original agreed upon price. Because I cannot stop the increase though, I will add a discount of his increase here to the line, and as you've stated, your plan to be put back to what you agreed to. So the 50% discount you have has now been removed, the plan is back to £60. He tries to talk, but don't worry sir, we won't be making you repay the backdated discount from the last 12 months. That is not how it works here. So I can confirm that your plan will remain at the agreed price of £60. After a stunned and silence, he recovers and asks, what do I mean by £60? Well, I explained that he agreed to a contract at £60 per month with 3-month half price, but that the wrong 50% discount had in fact been added and had been left on longer than was intended. He told me to leave it alone, not to do anything, but it was too late. He had already confirmed that he wanted it. And even if he had not, we have a system in place to report excessive or incorrect discounts, which I would have been reporting him on. But this was much more enjoyable. In the end, it was escalated to a manager who stuck by my actions to remove the incorrect discount and in fact removed my discount for the CPI as its policy not to discount these. It went above her to the executive complaints team who I followed up with and noticed that he was given a letter of deadlock that he could try taking to Ofcom. It felt great. The guy had an incredibly poor attitude, spoke to me like I was his to do with as he wanted, and wanted to spit his day out in a tantrum. I claimed the victory in the name of those who work in a role with direct customer interactions when they treat you like nothing and were truly horrible people. And the next one is a fantastic panty revenge story. It is titled A Special Gift for a Neighbor Who Insulted Me and My Dog. So I, 44 female, live in an upper middle class neighborhood that is pretty vast. 75 or so homes built between 70s and 90s, no HOA but a neighborhood association and crime watch organization, neither of which I'm a part of. We purchased a home in 21, everyone we've met has been very friendly for the most part. My children are teenagers, so we have not explored much of our neighborhood. We often see other people though that I assume live elsewhere park in front of my home or near it to walk our neighborhood as well. Well, a couple years ago we adopted a puppy. I checked out the distance of the bordering streets of our neighborhood, one of which our home sits on, and found it is 3.20 miles, so walking the outer edges of the neighborhood became my normal dog walking route. A few weeks ago, our local park was closed for renovation, so I began exploring all the connecting streets inside my neighborhood to give him new things to see and smell. This of course gave the opportunity to meet some new neighbors. I have in-earbuds on walks, so it's mostly simple pleasantries, sometimes a quick conversation. It's been largely lovely until a couple days ago. Walking in about the middle of a new street we had not been on before, there's not much through traffic, I noticed a 60-ish male in his yard by his garage. I gave a cursory smile and waved, but noticed that he was speaking. Taking my earbud out as I walked towards his yard, I asked, "What was that?" He replied, "Keep your dog off my grass." I was a little bit shocked by the rudeness and tone, so I replied with a sort of giggle, "He was not near your grass, but okay." I'm shaking my head, walking away. Louder now he yells, "I don't give a damn. It is my grass and I don't want anyone on it." I was almost too stunned to speak, but I managed well, I don't want strange bloated men barking orders at me, so when he poops in your yard you can say something, but until then go F yourself. I am walking fast, calling my husband, completely enraged. I was literally carrying a bag of crap in my hand because I'm not an a-hole, and I actually pick up after my dog. I'm about 2 streets over when I see a black Suburban creeping past a stop sign. And yes, it is him. I recognized it from his driveway. He is speeding up to me, I think to run me or my dog over. We hop into someone's yard off the curb. He speeds by and yells, "F you, bitch," while giving me his fat red finger out the window. Now, I'm smoking with anger. My dog is confused, but he just let me know that no one is home at his house. I circled back and opened my steaming bag in the center of his driveway, being careful to gauge where his tires would hit. It was a heavy load too, about 4 turds, but it wasn't enough. I'm still angry. I go home, look up his address, find his name, socials, all of that. His birthday is in 2 days. I smile because I know I will have a special present for him. So I called my most unhinged friend that happens to have 2 dogs, and she is happy to collect samples for me. At home, I do the same, and in 2 days' time, I have a ripe pile of poop from 3 dogs. I purchased a manila envelope, grabbed some Easter crinkle confetti paper, and some gloves to get working on his birthday present. I'm sure to grab the envelopes with bubble wrap on the inside. I address it to him and write, Happy birthday in large letters underneath, stuff it with dog poo and fill just the top with enough crinkle paper that it's hard to see what is inside. I walk it alone to his home on his birthday and put it in the paper box very early, and then I come back at mail time and wait on the nearest cross street hidden. I see him come out, and directly after the mail truck, he grabs my manila envelope. Yes, I can taste the revenge on my tongue. I'm about to walk the opposite direction home, but I see him opening the envelope. A front row seat. This is beautiful. He is halfway up his driveway when I hear, "What the F?" followed by, "Damn to hell," as he's trying to fling poop from his hand. I start running. I know he was gonna instinctively look around. I'm out of there. My heart was jackhammering in my chest. I'm out on a main road before I slow down to a normal walk and made it back home without an incident. This was 2 days ago and I haven't quit laughing since, and I think I'm satisfied for now anyway. The next one is titled, "Everyone Has to Follow the Rules." I bought my first house in 1999 and I wanted DirecTV. I put up a satellite dish which happened to be behind a privacy fence. I also knew the FCC ruling that HOAs could not prevent you from putting up a dish due to some malfeasance with home builders who would make shady deals with cable companies to force homeowners to go with a specific company. I think that's right. I figured I would not have any issues since it was behind a fence anyway. I got a knock at my door the next day and it was my neighbor from across the cul-de-sac, telling me she is on the board of the HOA. "Your dish is in violation and must be removed." This was my first encounter with her. I politely explained the law as I knew it and told her to have a nice day. We did not speak again and she ended up moving out soon. Well, it turns out she did not move out and was just renting to some other lady I never spoke to. And the HOA lady moved back in a year later. There was an easement behind my house which was properly mowed when I moved in. I would hit golf balls down there with my wedge and my neighbor who was into archery used it as his range. By the second summer I lived there, it was overgrown and an eyesore. I could not even see the creek just behind my house anymore. One weekend I borrowed my dad's utility trailer and I spent 3 days clearing out our little section behind the houses, hauling all of the debris away, probably 2 trips a day. My arms were covered in cuts from briars and apparently I was also dealing with some egg poison ivy or some other stuff because by Monday I was having an allergic reaction so badly that I went to the doctor to get a steroid shot. Laid up in the house all day and I get a knock at the door. It is the neighbor woman again. Apparently there's a rule that you cannot store a trailer in the driveway for more than 3 days and this was day number 4. I needed to remove it by the end of the day or face a $500 fine. She handed me a paper listing the rule and I considered just paying the fine, but instead I angrily drove an hour each way to return my dad's trailer after spending half the day already waiting in a hospital lobby. I got home after dark. What struck me as odd was there was a list of things you could not store in your driveway, for example personal watercrafts, boats, trailers, etc. The odd part was that motorcycles were listed on there. I don't ride one myself, but I thought it was a totally reasonable thing to keep in a driveway. After I finished all of this work, this woman would routinely walk through my yard without asking, but since she was taking her grandkid to play in the creek, I never said anything, even though it bothered me that she never asked. A year or so later, I wanted to sell the house and move into something bigger. I had talked to a realtor already, and I was getting things tidied up to have the house shown. As I was cleaning out a drawer, I noticed that paper the HOA lady had given me, and I remembered the part about motorcycles being listed. You see, the HOA lady had started dating an older gentleman, and he had moved in with her. It turns out he rode a Harley Davidson, which was always parked in her driveway. She was home, so I walked over there and politely informed her about the violation. The next day, the motorcycle was parked on her back porch, the one she bragged about to everyone who would listen, so she could tell them how much it cost. I laughed to myself, but then I remembered the part about it needing to be behind a fence. Another knock at the door, and within a few days, a fence company was building a 6-foot privacy fence, which completely hid her fancy new deck. My realtor had been on my case for at least a week about needing to put up a for sale sign, so as soon as the fence was finished, I told her it was okay. I sold the house quickly and moved out at the end of the month. Oh, and by the way, the fence was completely hideous and looked out of place because of the way her lot was shaped. And yeah guys, before we end the video, we will read one last story from r/petty revenge. This one is titled, Don't Give My Wife the Stink Eye. So this is my wife's petty revenge. Yesterday, she was at a Shell station parked at a pump about to get out of her SUV to get gas. Her door was about halfway open when some Karen whipped into the parking lot and nearly took her door off. She then glared at my wife with what she described as the stink eye like it was her fault. The Karen then pulls up to the pump, opens her gas cap, puts the nozzle in her tank and fills up. Then she runs inside for a minute to pay or maybe pick up some snacks, who knows. It is obvious to my wife that this Karen is in a crazy hurry. The Karen then comes back out to her car and hops into the driver's seat, forgetting that she left the gas pump nozzle in her vehicle. My wife is a super polite person and usually goes out of her way to help people. If you drop 20 bucks on the ground, she would be the first person to pick it up, tap you on the shoulder and hand it back to you. So in this situation, she would normally flag down the driver and let them know that the gas pump nozzle was still attached to their car, but well, not today. On this occasion, pettiness got the best of her. I think you know where this is going. The Karen stepped on the accelerator with the pump nozzle still in her car. Screech! She did some serious damage to her vehicle and possibly the gas pump. Then my wife smiled as she got into her SUV and drove off. By the way, first double checking to make sure the gas pump nozzle was not still attached. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.